If you are just starting your sewing journey and want to make something practical but not too tricky, a vest is a great choice. It gives you plenty of room to be creative and also a great way to practice some essential sewing skills. After making 2 colorful reversible vests, I wanted something puffy and cozy for winter. Something like a quilted vest with some thick batting material and a different colored binding around the edge. In this video, I'll take you through the entire process of making this vest, also the tips and lessons I picked up along the way, so that you can be inspired for your next project. I've got some remaining cotton canvas fabric from my previous homeware projects. As they're really thick, I felt they could be a good shell fabric choice for this vest. The batting I got is about 5mm thick. I felt I need to double the thickness to make the warmth level I wanted in this vest. So my plan was to make 2 layers separately and use the edge binding to combine them together. I did a quick test on a piece of scrap fabric. It looked nice and thick. I liked the result. The pattern I used for this vest is a free online PDF pattern from Sewing Therapy. You can find the link in the description bar below. I really like this cropped style with 2 front body pieces overlapped to make it extra warm. There is also a tutorial video of this vest on the website. This is a single layered vest, but my version will be double layered and quilted, so the construction process was quite different and created by myself. In this video, I will talk about my thinking process and the experiments I did, as I like to show you that even a beginner sewer can create and design something unique for yourself. After I printed the PDF pattern on A4 paper, the first thing I did was measure the test square to make sure the scale was right. I trimmed off the printing bleed on each paper so the pieces could accurately fit together. Then I lay out all the pages on the table and tape them together. This could be a tedious step for some people, since you have to be very careful and precise. Make sure you don't overlap any paper or leave any gaps. And don't accidentally shift any paper while you are taping. There are many other ways you can get a pattern ready for your project, such as buying the printed pattern or drawing the pattern by yourself from scratch. But if you can find a free digital pattern online, printing them on A4 paper is definitely the most both time and cost-effective way. After cutting patterns on paper, we can now transfer each pattern onto fabric and batting. First of all, of course, all the fabrics need to be pre-washed and pressed, so that they won't shrink after you've put lots of effort into making the garment. Now lay your paper pattern on the fabric. Don't forget to take a few seconds and carefully think through which side is the right side and which side is the wrong side. I found most pre-made patterns already include the seam allowances to make it simple for beginners, I guess. This pattern does too, so I can just trace along the paper. However, always make sure to check if the seam allowances are included in the particular pattern you use. If not, you will need to add 1 to 1.5 cm space when tracing or cutting your fabric, which is another step you have to spend time and patience to manage, but it's very critical for getting your project to turn out right. Then I laid all the fabric panels on the batting and cut the batting along the fabric outline. If you have a sharp eye, you might have noticed I made a mistake at this step. I forgot to flip one of the front inner side fabric panels, so I ended up having two right front inner panels here. I didn't even realize this mistake after all the pieces were quilted, so I had to rip off all the quilting stitches on that panel. It was a painful learning. But fortunately, sewing is one of those things you can just rewind and correct the mistake. That's why I love it. Once all the fabric and the batting pieces were cut, I started to mark quilting lines on the fabric. For the quilting pattern design for this vest, I just wanted something simple, so only vertical lines I felt it would be enough. I have a 5 cm straight long ruler. I just need to move the ruler along and make sure the ruler edge overlaps with the previous line. Once the quilting lines were marked on all the panels, I pinned the fabric and the batting together to keep them from shifting. I only did a rough cut on the batting here. You will see some tutorials suggest cutting all your fabric and the batting panels to size before quilting. But I wanted to test whether that really matters. For this project, it didn't. Honestly, I prefer this order because then I don't need to worry that the layers will shift and be misaligned after quilting. Finally, it's time to get on the sewing machine to attach the top fabric and batting layers together. It's a good opportunity for beginners to practice sewing straight lines. I found the friction between cotton canvas and cotton batting is really great. So even without all the pins, it might be okay as well. I tried sewing with a few different presser foot just to test which one works the best. I even tried the working foot as well, but I didn't find it made much of a difference. The straight line presser foot was still the best. Some people find this step tedious, but I see it differently. Sitting in the sun, music playing, feeding fabrics through the needle, and watching the stitches appear. It's one of the most calming, therapeutic parts of sewing for me. As I already pre-cut all the other pieces before quilting, now I only needed to cut the batting for the inner back piece at this stage. For the tie straps, I'm going to use some factory pre-made bias tapes to save time. I haven't used this kind of pre-made bias tape before, but I'm going to give it a try. I figured each strap needs to be about 40 cm long, and I'm going to fold it in the middle, then stitch 2 layers together, so I needed 80 cm for each strap. 2 pieces for the left side tie and another 2 pieces for the right side tie. When I started sewing the bias straps, I found the fabric was actually quite thin and soft. So I added a piece of tissue paper at the bottom to stabilize, and then tear off the tissue paper after sewing. The stitches looked okay after stripping the paper, but when I started sewing up the other side, the strap started being a bit twisted and jammed. It didn't look right to me, so I decided to try a different way. using a double-sided fusible hemming tape to glue the layers together before sewing. This hemming tape is one of the most magic sewing tools I've ever bought. I use them for many of my projects. They only cost like $2. I've been using this roll for about 2 years. They seem to last forever. Now the strap looks a lot sturdier, not flimsy or stretchy. The hemming tape made a huge difference, and it's way easier to sew now. Now let's put those straps aside and sew the shoulder seams to attach front and back pieces. You need to sew 4 shoulder seams for the outer layer and the inner layer separately. Then trim away the batting inside the seams to reduce bulk. To tie up the vest, I need to sew 2 straps on the outer layer and the other 2 on the inner layer. Two straps need to be stitched in between the side seams, so I need to attach these 2 straps to the bodice piece on the right side before closing the side seams. To combine the 2 layers together perfectly, I had to use many clips to make sure the whole outer and inner edges are totally aligned. But because the vest was quite thick, when the fabric was bent towards different directions, I found the layers couldn't always stay together. They shifted a lot. So at that stage, I figured that I had to add basting stitches to make sure the layers stay in place. Finally, I came to the most challenging steps of the whole project, binding the edges. First, I tried to clip the bias tape along the edge and wondered if I could take a risk of stitching the 2 sides in one go. I used this method before and it worked. The trick is when clipping the bias tape in place, I made sure the clip edge precisely aligned with the binding tape edge on both the top and the bottom side. This way, when you sew 1 to 2 mm away from the tape edge, it's guaranteed that the needle can catch the bias tape on both sides. But after a quick test, I realized that this method didn't work on this project today because the layers were too thick. So I went back to the normal method, opening up the bias tape, lining up the raw edge of the binding with the outer edge of the vest. Stitching up the back side first, and then wrapping the binding up to the front, clip them in place, sewing the front side along the under stitch lines. Finally, the vest is done. It turned out a bit harder than I expected, but it's super warm and cozy. It looks different from the original design, mostly because of the fabric and the batting I chose. And that's the beauty of sewing. You only need a pattern as a starting point. From there, you can adapt, experiment, and create something that truly fits your style and needs. There's no single right way to do it, only what works for you. And the only way to figure that out is to try. So, are you ready to make your own vest? If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe.